Hello everyone. In the previous video, part 1 of starting the game, we set up the structure in the view controller. We added a function start game, a function play game, and the function check answer. We set up the iteration by initializing a turn counter variable that has the scope of the entire class and defining a constant maximum turns, and we now set it to 3. When the game starts, the counter is reset to 0 and passes the control to the play game function. The play game function confirms if there are still available turns. If so, it plays a random sound. Otherwise, it ends the game. And when the user checks an answer, the check answer increments the counter and pass on the control to play game after pausing for 3 seconds. What we're going to try to do in this video is to get the sound to play. So to do that, as we learned in the help view controller in iteration number 2, we need to load the sound file. In help view controller, the sound file name, the file name was known, so we knew we want to play the A note. Here, we want to play a random note. As we did in module number 1 or project number 1, to play a random note, we want to load all the files into an array and randomize the index on that array. So the first step we want to do is we want to define the memory location or the variable that will hold the names of the nodes or the URL for all the nodes that we have. So we go to the class scope and define another variable, and we'll give this variable the name nodes, and that variable will represent all the nodes that we have, or the URLs for those nodes. Maybe I can call it node URLs. And we're gonna give it the type NS array, and we're not gonna initialize at this time. In the view did load, we will load all the nodes into that array. So we'll say here load the URL for all the node files into the node URLs array. So to do that, step number 1, I need to get a reference to the app bundle. So I'll say let app bundle equal. We'll use the ns bundle dot main bundle to get a reference to the app bundle. This folder that you see in front of you, the Saeed Music Learning, this is the folder on our development environment on our computer. However, when the app runs, it compresses or package the project and put it on the simulator on your device. We call that package a bundle. We do not know at development time where exactly it's going to go on the device. So this main bundle function gives us a reference to the location where the app will go on the device. So using this, I can then load all the URLs for that for the files that has extension MB3. So I will then say node URLs equal app bundle, and then I will in the help view controller, I used URL for resource, and this gives you a URL. There is another one called URLs for resources, for resources with extension, and it requires the extension as a string, and it asks if you have it inside a subdirectory, you provide the name of the subdirectory. So the extension here is MB3, and we do not have a subdirectory for the project, for the nodes. It's just grouped in here, but it is in the main node. So now I have in my array all of them, and I need to put the exclamation point at the end. So now that I loaded the nodes array, in the play game, I need to play a note at random. So I'll first set up my player. So I'll say variable player, and this will be an AV audio player. And as you notice here, oh yeah, I need to initialize it to compress that. And Xcode will complain because it says use of undeclared type, which means that the AV audio player type that I'm using is not recognizable by Xcode. The reason for that is the AV audio player is part of a framework called AV Foundation, and that framework is not imported automatically or added by the template. So I have to add it manually. So import AV Foundation. And once you add that statement, Xcode now recognizes the AV audio player because it is part of the AV Foundation. The start game will pass the control to the play game, and then inside the play game, that's where we play the random sound. So to play the random sound, step number 1, I need to get a random number between 0 and the count of the note URL array. I need to know how many files I have, and the number of files will be the count of this array note URLs. And then I get a random number, so I'll say let random index equal, and then I'll use the random function and the modulus operator followed by the note URLs dot count. So that gives us a random index. Then use the random index to get the URL for a note file at the random index. So I'll say let random URL equal, and then I'll use the array, so note URLs dot object at index, and provide the random index, and then we're gonna need to convert that into NSURL. Now that I have the random URL, I can initialize the audio player. So I say player equal AV audio player and initialize with the content of URL. And as you can see here, this function throws an error or an exception. So I need to proceed that entire instruction with a try and suppress the error from that function. And this will be content of URL random URL. Now that I initialize the player, step number 4, play the sound. So I say player dot play. So this will play a random sound, and the random sound will if we, yeah, we can go and play. So the app loaded, so I click start game, and here is the sound. If I click one of those, it should wait 3 seconds and play another one. And then it will do that 3 times because we have 3 turns. And perhaps we reach it the 3 times. So the issue I have here is I don't know which note is the one that we played. So we need to find a way to convey to us what is the note that we played. So we can log that note that we played or the name of the file that we played. So we can come here and say log the name of the note. So to log, which brings to the output screen, we can use the function nslog, and the nslog function receives the similar arguments to the localized string with format function that we used to use to construct a string. So the idea here is to construct a string and print that string or write that string to the output screen. So the string I want to write is the current note is, and then put a string in there. And then where do I get the current note from? I'm gonna need that current note, which is the name of the note, in the check answer, because this is how I'm gonna compare if the user clicked on the correct or recognized the note or not. So I'm gonna take advantage and create a variable with the class scope to represent the current node, the file name of the current node. So I'll say current node and define that as a string in the view controller. So before I log the current node, let's give it a value. So I will say current node equal. How do I get the actual name of the node? The actual name of the node will come from the URL. So I will say node URL, the random URL, because that's what was played. And then from the random URL, there is a function, and the function is called last path component. The last path component give you the very last path. To understand that, we can first print the node URL so that you can see what's in there. The random URL, and then once you see what the random URL look like, you'll be able to see what the last path component is. So here is the current node is, and that is the actual full file for the node. That is the URL starts with file colon // and this is the entire path to the app bundle, and this is the app bundle for our project, the compression of the app bundle. And then the last path component is this e.mb3. So if you want to print only this e.mb3, which represent the name of the file, then we run the last path component variable on the current node. So I'll say random URL dot last path component and the exclamation point, and then log the current node. So let's try to run this. So here is the actual content of this variable current node, which represent exactly the name of the file. So if the user select the node B, it stays, waits for 3 seconds, then plays another node. That's the second node. Then you make a selection. It's gonna wait 3 seconds and play a third node. Now that you played 3 times, which is the maximum number of iteration that I set in here, if you click again it will go to end the game, and nothing is happening at this time in end the game because we haven't done anything yet. All right. So we can proceed in multiple ways at this time. We can either display a dialog to indicate that the game has ended, or we can check the answer and adjust to the check answer. So let's do the end the game at this time. In the play game function, I'm checking the turns, and if the turn is there, I play a random sound. Otherwise, I'll end the game. So to end the game, I'm going to use the same structures that we had, and I can say end the game function. So we'll create another function called end the game, and call that function from the play game function. In fact, we could have taken all of this and put it in a function called the play sound, and have the play game will check the turns, then send it to play sound, and then that comes to end the game. But we'll leave it there for now. That's fine. So in the game, what we want to do is display to the user that the game has ended. So we're gonna use something called UI alert view. So we'll say let alert equal UI alert view, which creates a view that represents the dialog. And to initialize an alert view, there are several initializations. So we'll use this one. I think we'll use the second one. Yep, that's the shorter version. So it asks you for a string representation of the title. So I'm just gonna say title is game end. The message, what message you want to provide it. So I will say game over, and then once we calculate the score, we can add the score. Delegate, if you want to pass the control to another, or notify a class that's a delegate to the alert view, and then the title for the cancel button. So this function creates an alert with one button called the cancel button, and then after you create the alert, we display it by saying alert.show. So let's try that. So when the game ends, you get the end the game and you hit OK. Here is a suggested message saying that alert view is deprecated, meaning it will no longer gonna be used. So it's suggesting to use the UI alert controller with a preferred style of UI alert controller style alert. So you can look that up, and maybe we can modify it in a future iteration. So we got the end game. So the second part we want to do is to get the check the answer and saying if it's a correct answer or not. So to check the answer, we will need to compare the node that the game is playing with the node that the user selected. So the node that the game is playing is the current node, is stored in the variable current node, and that's what you see in the output screen. So where is the node that the user have selected? And the node that the user have selected is in the button clicked. So first, to check the answer, I need to retrieve the name of the node that the user selected. Similar to what we did in the help view controller, the button clicked is a button, has a title in it, and the title has text. So, so I can break that down into two steps: let label equal, and then I use the button clicked dot title label. Then I will say let the text equal label dot text. Then we need to get the actual node that the user created. Now the label on the text will give you the name of the node, but the current node has the name of the node .mb3. So if you try to compare, for instance, what's on the button, which is E, with the current node, which is e.mb3, they will never be equal. So we have to make them of similar format. So either add .mb3 to what's on the button, or take out the .mb3 from the current node. Easier, I'm gonna add the .mb3 to the node. So I will say let user node equal. I'll take what's in the text, what's on the button, and then use the plus operator to add to it mb3. So you can concatenate two strings by using the plus operator, which takes the .mb3 and put it at the end of the text. So now if the user selected E, the E will be on the button. So I retrieve the E by retrieving the label, then retrieving the text on the label, then take the E and put next to it .mb3, and that becomes this variable called user node. So to check the answer, I will need to compare. So I say if, and then I'll say if the user node, and since these are strings, I can compare with the case insensitive compare, or I can use the two equal and compare with the current node. If the comparison is correct, this means that the user did a correct answer. So maybe I can log ns log, and I will say correct answer and no arguments. If it's not correct, I'll use else, and this will be the incorrect answer. And then later on, I believe in the next iteration, we will set up the labels and image and so on. So let's see if this will work. I have another comparison other than this equal operator, which is using the what we did before, the case insensitive compare, to compare these two together in the sorting. We did it in the sorting. So we started the game. We have E, so let's click E, and then we got a correct answer. Then we had a G, so let's click B, and we got also correct. Oh, I have the I logged correct answer in both. So I can't tell if I'm trying to test this if statement to make sure that the logic is working and that I am getting incorrect answer if I submit an incorrect answer, or I am getting a correct answer if I'm submitting a correct answer. So it seems here from the current note that is being played at random and my selection, that whenever I select an incorrect note, I get the incorrect answer, which means that the condition evaluated to false. So the else statement, the instruction inside the if statement, is executed. And if I click on the correct note, I get the correct answer, which means that the instruction inside the block of the if statement is executed, which should happen when the actual note is correct, when the condition is correct. So what did we accomplish so far? We accomplished the entire structure of the game. We have the start game button. We have the user which presents the challenge for the user. We have the buttons where the user will make a selection or a response to the challenge presented to him or her. Then we evaluate that challenge here in the check answer. And if the evaluation is true, we indicate correct answer, otherwise we indicate incorrect answer. We're doing that right now in the output log using the log screen, the NS log. What we're going to do in the next iteration is provide visuals for the user. We need a label that tells the user correct or incorrect. We're going to add an image so that the user sees a visual. Then we're going to add another label that tells the user how many turns there are, and then continue to enhance and so on. And the following iteration will do the scoring. So thank you, and we'll move on to the next iteration.